Nearly 750,000 Texans served in the military during World War II. This included 12,000 women. This accounted for 7% of the overall strength of the U.S. military, although the state accounted for only 5% of the nation's population. The chances of having a soldier with the nickname of Tex in your unit was pretty high during World War II. Many of these Texans fought with distinction. Lieutenant Audie Murphy from Farmersville, Texas, became the most decorated soldier in the conflict. He served with the 3rd Infantry Division and fought in Italy, France, and Germany. Colonel James Earl Rutter, a football coach in Brady and Stephenville before the war, became famous for leading the Army Rangers up the cliffs of Pointe du Hoc during the Normandy invasion. Texans also held high command. Dwight David Eisenhower, the supreme Allied commander in Europe, was born in Denison, Texas, but raised in Kansas. Admiral Chester Nimitz grew up in Fredericksburg and Kerrville before commanding the U.S. Pacific Fleet to victory over Japan. Houstonian Ovida Culp Hobby created and led the Women's Army Corps, or WACS. There were also tough Texans. Claire Chennault of Commerce led the famous Flying Tigers in China. Harlan Block, who grew up in the lower Rio Grande Valley, was one of the Marines that raised the flag over Mount Suribachi on Iwo Jima, which became one of the most iconic photos of the war. Frank Denius of Athens studied at Schreiner Institute in Kerrville before going to war and winning the Silver Star 4 times. Bombardier of the famous B-17 Memphis Belle was Vince Evans of Henderson. George H. Gay of Waco, a torpedo bomber pilot aboard USS Hornet, survived the Battle of Midway and watched the entire fight while floating in the water after Japanese fighters shot him down. William E. Dias of Albany was a fighter pilot captured in the fall of the Philippines. He escaped after a brutal year-long captivity and relayed news of the fate of his fellow prisoners to U.S. authorities. 28 Texans earned the Medal of Honor during World War II. These heroes came from across the state, and while most were native Texans, some had moved in from other states. 2 were born in Mexico and immigrated to Texas, where they bravely served their adopted country. They were soldiers and Marines, sailors, and flight crews. These Texans included Lucien Adams of Port Arthur, William Bordelon of San Antonio, Stump Carswell of Fort Worth, Robert Cole of San Antonio, Samuel Dealey of Dallas, Forrest Everhart of Texas City, James Fields of Houston, Thomas Fowler of Wichita Falls, Macario Garcia of Sugar Land, William Harrell of Mercedes, James Harris of Hillsboro, William Hawkins of El Paso, Silvestre Herrera of El Paso, Lloyd Hughes of Refugio, Johnny Hutchins of Weimar, Neil Kirby of Wichita Falls, George Keithley of Albany, Truman Kimbrough of Madisonville, Jack Knight of Garner, Raymond Knight of Houston, Turney Leonard of Dallas, James Logan of McNeil, Jose Lopez of Brownsville, A.J. Lummis of Ennis, Jack Mathis of San Angelo, Howard Roan of Claude, James Robinson of Waco, Cleto Rodriguez of San Antonio, Herman Wallace of Lubbock, and Eli Whiteley of Georgetown. Many of these men died in combat before ever learning of the honor. With the surrender of Germany and Japan in 1945, the young Texans who had gone to war came home to restart their lives.